So, of course, I said, give me episode 2, and this is what it said.
Traditional office environments that million people clock into a job that doesn't exist in any traditional sense. No office, no boss looking over their shoulder, no guaranteed paycheck. They're DoorDash drivers, and together they're earning $18 billion annually while reshaping what work looks like in America. Today, we're diving deep into the DoorDasher's drive, the financial realities, psychological challenges, and surprising resilience of delivery workers who are literally fueling the gig economy. You'll understand what it really takes to make money in food delivery, why delayed payments are creating a hidden crisis, and how this massive workforce is redefining the American dream one delivery at a time. Let me bring in someone who's been tracking these trends closely. Help me understand what we're really looking at here when we talk about the scale of gig work today. The numbers are honestly staggering. According to the Interview Guys' comprehensive research report, we now have over 70 million Americans working in the gig economy. That's 36% of the entire workforce. This isn't some side hustle phenomenon anymore. 36% of the workforce? That's more than 1 in 3 workers. Exactly. And here's what's really wild. Full-time independent workers more than doubled from 13.6 million in 2020 to 27.7 million in 2024. By 2027, freelancers are projected to make up over 50% of the U.S. workforce. We're witnessing a fundamental shift in how Americans work. So when we zoom in on DoorDash specifically, what does that landscape look like? DoorDash has become the dominant player with a 68% share of the U.S. food delivery market. In 2024 alone, 8 million people worked as Dashers, and they collectively earned over $18 billion. That breaks down to an average of $2,250 per Dasher annually. Wait, $2,250 annually? That seems low for what sounds like a lot of work. That's the average across all Dashers, including people who only work a few hours here and there. But when you look at the weekly breakdown from Gridwise, DoorDashers make on average $240 per week, and that includes people working everything from weekend-only schedules to full-time hours. Okay, so the earnings really depend on how much you're putting in. What about hourly rates? In 2024, the average DoorDasher earned $12.23 per hour. But here's the thing, that includes inactive time, like waiting for orders or driving between deliveries. The actual active earning rate can be higher for strategic drivers. And I imagine location matters a lot too, right? Absolutely. According to DoorDash's own 2025 Dash report, the highest volume of orders come from Greater Los Angeles, New York Metro, San Francisco Bay Area, Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Dallas, Detroit, Denver, and Boulder. If you're dashing in these hotspots, you're going to see more opportunities. What about timing? Is there a sweet spot for earnings? The dinner rush from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. was the busiest time for Dashers in 2024. That's your high earnings window. And overall, Dashers nationwide complete an average of over 3 million deliveries per day. 3 million deliveries daily. That's incredible scale. But let's talk about the flip side. What are the real costs these drivers are dealing with? This is where it gets tough. DoorDash drivers earn approximately $0.92 per mile, but they cover all their own operating costs. We're talking gas, maintenance, insurance, phone and data plans, delivery equipment like thermal bags. So that $12.23 per hour starts looking different when you factor in expenses. Exactly. And there's actually been significant legal battles around this. The Parker v. Battle Creek Pizza case in 2024 clarified that under the Fair Labor Standards Act, if employers require drivers to use personal vehicles, they must reimburse 100% of vehicle costs to ensure drivers don't fall below minimum wage. But that's for employees, not independent contractors like DoorDash drivers, right? Right. Independent contractors like DoorDash drivers can deduct business mileage on their tax returns at the IRS standard rate, which was 67 cents per mile in 2024, but they don't get direct reimbursement. So we've got this interesting tension between flexibility and financial security. What does the research tell us about how drivers are actually using these earnings? This is where Every's 2025 Gig Driver Report gets really revealing. For many drivers, this isn't a side hustle. 27% say gig driving is a full-time gig, while 59% say it's at least half their income. So we're talking about people depending on this for their livelihood. Absolutely. 66% plan to use their gig earnings in the next year to cover everyday bills and living expenses. 34% are using earnings to pay down debt. Only 28% hope to build emergency savings.
That paints a picture of people just trying to stay afloat rather than getting ahead.
And here's where it gets really concerning. 54% say they would increase their driving hours if economic conditions worsen in 2025. They're preparing to lean even more heavily on gig work.
But there's another layer to this story, isn't there? The psychological impact of this kind of work.
This is huge and often overlooked. According to research from iResearchNet on gig economy mental health, delivery drivers face distinctive challenges including social isolation, work-life boundary blurring, and absence of conventional workplace support systems.
Social isolation, that makes sense. You're basically working alone in your car all day.
Exactly. A study by the American Psychological Association found that social isolation correlates with poorer mental health outcomes, including heightened levels of depression and anxiety. Unlike traditional office environments that encourage colleague interactions, delivery drivers spend long hours alone in their vehicles.
And then there's the pressure aspect, right? The ratings, the deadlines.
The fast-paced nature creates unique stresses. Drivers are constantly under pressure to meet tight deadlines, navigate unpredictable traffic, and achieve high ratings from customers. The World Health Organization identifies this kind of chronic stress as a precursor to burnout.
It's interesting. Here's this work that's supposed to offer freedom and flexibility, but it comes with its own intense pressures.
And there's the financial insecurity piece. The Economic Policy Institute found that gig workers are disproportionately vulnerable to financial instability, which can have a profound impact on mental health. The constant worry about making ends meet creates a cycle of stress.
Speaking of financial stress, I want to dig into something that really caught my attention in the research, this issue with delayed payments. What's happening there?
This is a hidden crisis. According to Every's report, 65% of gig drivers have had to borrow money through payday loans, credit card advances, or from friends and family while waiting for their gig earnings to arrive.
65%? That's almost 2/3 of drivers having to go into debt just to bridge the gap until they get paid for work they've already done.
And 53% have delayed a bill or essential purchase, gas, groceries, rent, while waiting for payments. 30% say losing access to same-day payments would cause serious financial hardship.
So you have people doing essential work, but they can't access their earnings fast enough to cover their own essential needs.
Exactly. As Brett Barlow, CEO of Every, put it, for many, gig work covers the essentials, not the extras. And delays in pay can mean delayed rent, bills, or groceries. It's a cash flow crisis.
Given all these challenges, the financial stress, the isolation, the payment delays, why do people stick with it? What keeps them driving?
Here's what's fascinating. Despite all these challenges, 77% of drivers prefer to remain independent contractors. Only 19% would opt for full-time employment with fixed shifts and benefits.
That's surprising. They're choosing flexibility over security.
The flexibility is the main distinguishing feature. According to the research, gig workers can determine their working hours, choose their place of work, and independently decide the amount of work they need to earn and have free time.
And I imagine for certain groups, students, parents, people with other commitments, that flexibility is worth the trade-offs.
Absolutely. The research mentions this is particularly valuable for students, young mothers on maternity leave, and highly qualified specialists who prefer a free schedule for project work. It's about working on your own terms.
There's something almost poetic about DoorDash's origin story in this context. Didn't the founders actually work as drivers themselves?
They did. DoorDash started as PaloAltoDelivery.com in 2013, and the four founders worked as Dashers themselves while developing the app. They had first-hand experience of what drivers go through.
That's incredible. They built a platform worth billions by first understanding the ground-level reality of the work.
And now DoorDash operates in over 40 countries, handles 2.6 billion orders annually, and partners with 590,000 restaurants and grocery shops. It's become this massive ecosystem built on the backs of individual drivers.
When you step back and look at all this, the scale, the challenges, the persistence of drivers despite the difficulties, what does this tell us about the future of work?
We're witnessing a fundamental transformation. The gig economy isn't emerging anymore, it has arrived. With projections showing freelancers making up over 50% of the workforce by 2027, this is becoming the new normal, not the exception.
And the drivers themselves are adapting and finding ways to make it work, even with all the challenges.
Exactly. Despite the financial strain and psychological challenges, people are choosing this path because it offers something traditional employment often doesn't: The ability to control your own schedule and work on your own terms. It's this trade-off between security and autonomy, and millions of people are deciding that autonomy is worth the risk. And as the research shows, many are finding ways to make it sustainable. High-earning freelancers making $100,000 or more surged from 3 million in 2020 to 5.6 million in 2025. It's proving that gig work can be a viable career path, not just a side hustle. So here's what this really comes down to. We're watching the birth of a new kind of American worker. Someone who's willing to trade traditional job security for the freedom to build their own path, even when that path is filled with uncertainty. And they're not just surviving in this new economy, they're shaping it. Every delivery, every rating, every decision about when and where to work is collectively redefining what employment looks like in America. The DoorDasher's drive isn't just about delivering food, it's about delivering a new vision of work itself. These 8 million drivers aren't just earning $18 billion annually, they're earning the right to work on their own terms. Next time you see a DoorDash driver pulling up to your door, remember, you're not just getting your dinner delivered, you're witnessing someone who chose freedom over security, flexibility over certainty, and the open road over the corporate cubicle. That's the real drive behind the DoorDasher's drive.